My brother's wife demanded I should step up because their kids deserve whatever I and my wife provide for our kids. We're supposed to be one big happy family. Growing up in Dayton, Ohio, my brother Mark and I were raised in what people call a working class but proud household. Dad worked construction. Mom worked part-time at the library. They didn't spoil us, but they taught us responsibility. If we wanted a new bike, we mowed lawns. If we wanted new sneakers, we raked leaves or shoveled snow. That upbringing stuck with me. I carried it into adulthood. My wife Hannah did too. Her parents were immigrants who drilled hard work and self-sufficiency into her bones. We shared that mindset: you get what you earn. Mark, not so much. He was always the dreamer, the "it'll work out somehow" type. When he married Jessica, that dreamer streak turned into something else. Jessica had charm at first. She was loud, funny, and made everyone feel included. But I noticed early that she liked comparing. If Hannah had a Coach purse, Jessica would sigh and say, "Must be nice, I'll probably never get one of those." If I bought a new truck, she'd pat Mark's sedan and laugh, "Guess we're the poor cousins." It was always disguised as a joke, but it carried a bite. When their daughter Lily was born, that bite turned into claws. Suddenly, Jessica saw every difference as an injustice. Hannah and I planned a trip to Disney for Ellie's 6th birthday. We saved for over a year, skipped nights out, cut back on extras. Hannah even picked up extra shifts. When Jessica found out, she blew up. "You're really gonna take your kids and not ours," she said over the phone. "How do you think Lily will feel when she hears her cousins went to Disney without her?" "Jessica," I said, holding back my irritation, "we can't afford to take 4 kids. We barely afford 2. "Well," she snapped, "if family means anything to you, you'll find a way. Otherwise, you're teaching our kids they don't matter." She even told my mom, who called me crying, begging me to maybe find some compromise. I stood my ground. We went. And sure enough, while we were in Orlando, Jessica filled Facebook with cryptic posts. Some people only care about their own happiness. It's sad when kids are punished for adult selfishness. By the time we got back, she wasn't speaking to us. That December, things escalated. Hannah and I bought Mason a PS5, it was his dream. Ellie got a dollhouse. We wrapped the gifts and invited Mark's family over for Christmas morning. The second Lily saw the dollhouse, she gasped. "Mommy, I want one." Jessica shot me a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Well, guess Santa doesn't love Lily as much as Ellie, huh?" she said loudly. The room went silent. Mark looked at his shoes. My dad cleared his throat. Hannah's face turned red. I finally said, "Santa brings what parents can afford, Jessica. That's how it works." She slammed her mug on the table. "So you're saying my kids deserve less because we don't make as much as you? That's not family. Family means equality." Mom tried to smooth it over, but the tension ruined the whole day. The real explosion came the following year at Thanksgiving. We hosted again, big table, turkey, stuffing, the works. Everyone was laughing, kids running around. After dinner, Jessica pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Look," she said, lowering her voice, "let's be real. You and Hannah have more. You should cover the big gifts this year. That way the kids won't feel the difference. It'll be fair." I set down the carving knife. "Excuse me? You buy Mason a console, you buy Noah one too. If Ellie gets a dollhouse, Lily should too. Think of it as investing in family harmony." That was the last straw. "Jessica," I said, keeping my voice low but firm, "I am not responsible for your kids. My job is to provide for mine. Yours is yours. That's not selfish, that's reality." She glared. "So you're fine with my kids growing up jealous? With them knowing their uncle chose money over family?" Don't twist this. What you're asking isn't family, it's freeloading. Mark walked in just then, looking pale. What's going on? Jessica pointed at me. Your brother doesn't care if our kids feel less loved. The night ended with shouting, Jessica storming out, and my mom in tears. After that fight, Jessica went nuclear. She started saying in the group chat that if I didn't step up, she'd take action. At first, I ignored her. But then Mark called me one night, panicked. She's talking about going to court, he said. For what? I asked, baffled. She says since we're family and you're better off, you should be legally required to support our kids too. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. That's not how the law works, Mark. She's lost it. And sure enough, no lawyer would take her seriously. But the fact that she even considered it told me everything I needed to know. A few months later, Mark showed up at my door with a duffel bag. He looked broken. I can't do it anymore, he said. Turns out, Jessica's obsession with comparisons had eaten their marriage alive. She wasn't just comparing their kids to mine, she compared Mark to me, to her sister's husband, to celebrities on TV. She said I'll never measure up, Mark admitted, eyes red. I work, I provide, but it's never enough. She's always looking at what someone else has. I can't breathe anymore. Jessica moved out not long after, taking Lily and Noah with her to her parents. It came in the form of a thick envelope with Hamilton County Family Court stamped across the top. Mark had barely started finding his footing when Jessica dropped her next bomb. Inside, Jessica was petitioning for full custody of Lily and Noah, claiming Mark was an unfit father who couldn't provide the quality of life their children deserved. And to make it sting more, she was demanding a massive child support payment based not only on Mark's salary, but on what she believed he had access to through me. The petition literally said, the children are accustomed to the lifestyle provided by extended family members, vacations, gifts, home environment. In the interest of continuity, Jessica requests child support reflective of this standard. In plain English? She was trying to use my life, my income, my house as leverage to bleed Mark dry. When the papers came, Mark sat at my kitchen table again, staring at them with dead eyes. She's saying I can't raise my own kids, he whispered. I picked up the documents and skimmed them. This isn't about the kids. This is about control. She's mad she can't boss us around anymore, so now she's going nuclear. Hannah shook her head. She's weaponizing the children. That's low. Even Mom, who always tried to see the good in people, said quietly, Jessica's gone too far. While the court process crept forward, Jessica launched what I called her sympathy tour. She filled Facebook with sob stories. Single mom, abandoned, struggling to provide the same things their cousins get. Some men just don't step up for their kids the way they should. Funny how some families only help their favorites. She even posted a GoFundMe titled, Help Me Keep My Kids Safe and Happy, with a picture of Lily holding a worn teddy bear. Relatives started calling. Why isn't Mark paying child support? Why are you and Hannah living large while Jessica can't even buy new shoes for the kids? It was exhausting. We kept explaining the truth. Mark paid for school supplies, food, healthcare, and was offering fair shared custody. But Jessica painted everything as abuse. When the custody hearings finally started, the courtroom became a battlefield. Jessica sat at her lawyer's table, polished and poised, with binders full of evidence. She argued Mark was financially unstable, because he'd moved out of their shared house into an apartment. Mentally unfit, citing stress and his dependence me. Unable to provide continuity, because I supposedly spoiled the kids during visits, setting unrealistic expectations. Her lawyer even brought up our Disney trip from 2 years earlier, saying, the children have grown accustomed to certain luxuries when with extended family. With Jessica as sole custodian, we can ensure they don't feel deprived. It was outrageous. They were trying to make my vacations, my house, my gifts into a legal standard that Mark had to pay for. Mark's lawyer tore it apart. Extended family generosity is not grounds for child support. The father provides consistently, pays for their needs, and requests equal custody. During one recess, Jessica cornered me in the hallway. "You know this would all be easier if you'd just help," she hissed. "Why not throw some money into the pot? You've got it. They're your niece and nephew. Don't they deserve the same as your kids?" I leaned in and said, "Jessica, the day I start paying your bills is the day hell freezes over. Those kids deserve love, not a competition of wallets. Stop using them as pawns." She sneered. "You'll regret this." After months of hearings, investigations, and mediation attempts, the judge finally gave his decision. Mark was granted joint custody, exactly what he'd asked for. He'd have Lily and Noah half the time. He was ordered to pay reasonable child support, based on his actual income, not my household. Jessica was furious. She stormed out of the courtroom without looking at anyone. In the weeks after the ruling, Jessica tried to poison the kids against Mark. She told them he didn't care enough to buy them the same things Uncle John, me, bought Mason and Ellie. But kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. Lily and Noah loved spending time with their cousins, and when they saw how happy Mason and Ellie were in our modest but warm home, they realized life wasn't about who had the biggest presents. Mark slowly rebuilt his relationship with them, proving love beat money every time. Jessica, meanwhile, kept ranting on social media, but the audience dwindled. People got tired of her drama. Even her own parents started to see through it. The months after were strange. Holidays were quieter, but calmer. When Mark had the kids, he brought them over. They played with Mason and Ellie, no drama, no comparisons, just cousins being kids. For the first time, I saw my brother relax. He laughed more. He stopped looking like a man walking on eggshells. And I realized something: Jessica had been poisoning our whole family for years. We'd been bending, twisting, trying to keep harmony, but all it did was give her more power. 3 months after the custody battle, Mark has grown stronger. The kids are happy. Family gatherings, though smaller, are peaceful again. Jessica still tries, every now and then, to stir up trouble. She'll send texts demanding extra support for school trips or clothes. But Mark, with his newfound backbone, simply replies, "That's your responsibility during your custody time." And me? I no longer feel guilty for saying no. My responsibility is to my wife and kids. Helping family should be a choice, not a demand backed by guilt trips or court petitions. Jessica wanted full custody and a blank check. What she got instead was a wake-up call: entitlement doesn't win in the long run. But people like Jessica never back down, they just shift tactics. One spring afternoon, Mark got served again. This time, it wasn't about the kids. It was about her. Jessica was filing for spousal support, and not the modest kind. She wanted thousands a month, arguing she had become accustomed to a higher standard of living during her marriage, and couldn't possibly return to a lesser life. The kicker? Her entire argument rested not on what Mark provided during the marriage, but on what she saw me and Hannah enjoying. In her filing, she literally wrote, "During the marriage, I regularly witnessed the lifestyle enjoyed by Mark's brother John and his wife Hannah. Their vacations, home, and opportunities became the social and familial baseline. It is unjust to expect me to regress into poverty while the extended family prospers." When Mark read it out loud at my kitchen table, Hannah nearly spit out her coffee. She's asking the court to make you pay her because of what we have?" I shook my head. That's not spousal support. That's envy wrapped in legal paper. On the day of the hearing, Jessica walked in dressed like she was auditioning for Real Housewives of Ohio, heels, salon fresh hair, and a designer bag I knew cost more than Mark's monthly rent. She took the stand and laid it on thick. "Your Honor," she began, voice quivering just enough to sound rehearsed, "when I married Mark, I believed we were building a life like the one his brother's family had. But after the divorce, I find myself in a tiny home, barely scraping by, while his brother and his wife thrive in luxury. It's humiliating. I should not be punished with poverty simply because my marriage ended. Spousal support would allow me to maintain the lifestyle I became accustomed to." Her lawyer backed her up. "It's unreasonable to expect Ms. Miller to downgrade her standard of living so drastically while the extended family enjoys abundance. Spousal support will level the playing field." The judge leaned back, eyebrows raised. "Counselor, am I hearing this correctly? You are asking me to base spousal support not on what her ex-husband earned, but on what his brother and sister-in-law earned?" "Yes, Your Honor," the lawyer said without flinching. "It is the family unit she was part of. She cannot simply unsee the lifestyle she was integrated into." I nearly laughed out loud from the gallery. Mark's lawyer stood up, stone-faced. "Your Honor, spousal support is based on marital earnings, not jealousy of relatives. Mark never provided his wife with the lifestyle she describes. He worked an average IT job, and she worked part-time as a hygienist. The brother's household has no bearing. If this argument were valid, every ex-spouse in America could sue their in-laws for money." The judge nodded slowly. "Exactly." Jessica's face turned red. "But it's not fair. I can't go back to cheap clothes and old cars while they live it up at Disney every year." The judge's voice turned sharp. "Ms. Miller, fairness is not defined by your in-law's wallet. Spousal support exists to prevent destitution, not fund envy." Case dismissed. Bang! The gavel slammed. Jessica stormed out of the courtroom, muttering about biased judges and rigged systems. But the damage was done. Her ridiculous stunt had backfired spectacularly. Word spread through the family and community. People weren't sympathetic anymore, they were embarrassed for her. Even her parents stopped defending her, finally admitting, Jessica needs to stop comparing her life to John and Hannah's. Mark, for once, walked out of court with his shoulders squared and his chin high. "She can't touch me anymore," he said, almost smiling. Jessica still tried to guilt-trip in texts. "If you were a real man, you'd make sure I never had to downgrade my life." But Mark had learned to reply with one line, "That's not my responsibility anymore." The truth was undeniable, Jessica's greed had turned her into a punchline. She wanted spousal support not to survive, but to compete. And the court had made it clear, envy isn't a paycheck. After the verdict, Jessica's shine started to fade. At first, she doubled down on her narrative, the poor single mom struggling to raise 2 kids while her selfish ex-husband and his rich brother lived it up. She milked sympathy posts online for all they were worth, pictures of her kids in hand-me-downs, captions about choosing between groceries and bills. But the truth had a way of leaking out. People noticed that while she cried poverty online, she was also posting selfies with new hair extensions, nails freshly done, and the occasional treat-yourself shopping trip. Slowly, sympathy turned into side-eye. Donations dried up. The GoFundMe fizzled. Jessica started dating again, not because she was looking for love, but because she was looking for a provider. The first guy was a manager at a car dealership. She bragged about him for weeks, fancy dinners, weekend trips. But when he realized she was angling for him to pick up her mortgage, he ghosted her. Then came a guy from her gym, a divorced dad himself. He lasted 3 months, but after watching her berate waiters and complain that his child support payments weren't as generous as John's family vacations, he ran too. Every time a relationship crashed, Jessica tried to spin it. They just couldn't handle a strong woman. But people saw the pattern, she wasn't looking for a partner, she was looking for a wallet. By the time Lily was 11 and Noah was 9, they were starting to notice things. Why does Dad's house feel happy, but Mom's house feels mad? Lily asked one night at dinner. Mark nearly choked on his spaghetti. What do you mean, sweetheart? Mom always says you don't love us because you don't buy us stuff, Lily explained. But when we're here, you play games with us, you help with homework, you laugh. At Mom's, she's always on her phone, always mad at you, and talking about money. Noah added quietly, I like it better here. It feels normal. Mark held it together in front of them, but later he called me, voice shaking. They see it, John. They're starting to see it. By the time the kids hit high school, Jessica's bitterness had only deepened. She was on her third failed relationship, each ending the same, men tired of her demands, her comparisons, and her obsession with money. She started pressuring Lily to apply to expensive extracurriculars, dance academies, private art classes, then demanded Mark foot the bill. When he refused, citing the court agreement, Jessica ranted in front of the kids. Your father doesn't care about your future. If he cared, he'd sacrifice like real parents do. But Lily, now 15 and sharp as a tack, snapped back, maybe if you worked more instead of fighting everyone, we'd have extra money too. Jessica was stunned. For the first time, her daughter wasn't buying the act. The final unraveling came during Noah's freshman year of high school. Jessica found out Hannah and I were planning a graduation trip for Mason. She confronted me at a family gathering. It's not fair that Mason gets a trip and Noah won't, she hissed. You should include both. Don't punish him just because his parents divorced. I'd had enough. Jessica, listen closely, your son is not my responsibility. If you want him to have a graduation trip, you plan one. Don't shove it on us. What she didn't realize was that Noah overheard the whole thing. Later that night, he asked Mark, why does Mom always try to make you look bad? Uncle John's right, it's not his job. It's hers. That conversation cracked something wide open. By the time Lily graduated, she chose to move in with Mark full-time. She told the court she wanted stability and peace, and they granted it since she was old enough to decide. Jessica went ballistic. She accused Mark of turning her daughter against her. But it wasn't manipulation, it was choice. A year later, Noah followed. Now Jessica lives mostly alone in that same house she once flaunted. The laughter of kids is gone. The endless comparisons have nowhere to land. She scrolls Facebook, posts bitter rants, but fewer and fewer people respond. She burned too many bridges. Sometimes, she shows up at family events, still trying to spin her story. But now, even her own children roll their eyes. Lily once said to her face, Mom, stop. We know the truth. Mark has rebuilt his life. He's remarried now, to someone warm, grounded, and nothing like Jessica. His kids adore their stepmom, because she doesn't compete or compare, she just loves them. As for me and Hannah, we watch Mason and Ellie grow, and we're grateful we stood our ground years ago. Because if there's one thing this whole saga taught me, it's this: family doesn't mean giving in to entitlement. It means protecting your peace, even if it means saying no to blood. Jessica demanded equality. What she got instead was emptiness, because she never learned that love, not money, is what makes a family whole. Today, Jessica is mostly alone. The kids visit her out of obligation, but they don't stay long. They love her, but they don't trust her. Every conversation circles back to money, fairness, comparisons. Meanwhile, Mark is thriving with his new wife and blended family. Lily is studying nursing, Noah is majoring in business, and both of them say they learned more about responsibility from watching their dad struggle than from anything Jessica ever preached. As for me, I look back at all those years of drama and shake my head. Jessica thought she could twist family into a system of debts and payments. She thought love was measured in gifts and vacations. But in the end, all her lawsuits, guilt trips, and schemes only drove away the very people she was trying to control. Do me a favor by subscribing to my channel.